lane in the futurity. Still there is Epitaph. Mentee with every shot to run by, and now Mentee is trying to move right past Epitaph, who's very game towards the inside. Inside the final furlong, Mentee is now striding away, is up by a length and a half. A 16th left to go. No doubt. Breeders' Cup, win and you're in. Mentee wins the futurity. Mentee wins it, then came a photo. Gate to wire with a late rally there with Epitaph in 1 minute 8 and 4.
Top of the short stretch as they turn for home. Continuity fourth. Here's Immersive. Immersive comes forward, has the lead. Quick Kick is taking aim from the outside, but she's second. But here she comes now in the short stretch. Quiet Side on the far outside. Immersive to the inside has the lead. Immersive chased all the way by Quick Kick. Immersive and Manny Franco to win the Darley Alcibiades.
Here's the oncoming strides of Scottish Lassie, and now Scottish Lassie is sent for home. Scottish Lassie is now opening up on the field, and look at Scottish Lassie open up. A final furlong left to go. Scottish Lassie is now widening this margin and opening up in the present. It is going to be all Scottish Lassie punches her ticket, and she's on to the Breeders' Cup. She wins the present easily. Scottish approaching a quarter mile left to go. The posted half mile time 45.59. 3/4 in 1 minute 11 and 1. And the leader is Tip Top Thomas, but has to deal with Chancer McPatrick, who's rolling down the center of the racetrack. Tip Top Thomas to the inside. Chancer McPatrick with every shot to run this rival down. And now Chancer McPatrick is in front. A 16th left to go. Was last, now first. And Chancer McPatrick wins the Champagne impressively and punches his ticket to the Breeders' Cup.
Off the final turn. It is East Avenue working into the final furlong of the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity. Maintains a 5-length lead back to Ferocious in second. Dapper Moon is third. East Avenue will prove much the best. In the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity, Tyler Gaffalione checks over his shoulder. A widening margin at the wire for East Avenue. 1 minute 43.17 seconds. He wins it. Ferocious home second, followed by Filoso, who made up a lot of ground to come from far back.
Stretch, Nooney digging in, non-compliant alongside. They put 4 on 10 million, third, 3/16 of a mile to go. Non-compliant and Nooney are head and head. Non-compliant gets the upper hand past the 8th pole. Nooney trying her best, well clear of 10 million, third, past the 16th pole, and it's non-compliant and Juan Hernandez in control. Non-compliant has won the Oak Leaf presented by Oak Tree. Martin Garcia still hand-riding Citizen Bull. They've spurted 3 clear of Getaway Car, followed by Mackenzie Street, who picks it up a bit late, coming to the 16th pole, and it's Citizen Bull with a 3-length lead. Getaway Car did his best, but was second best. Citizen Bull punches his ticket in gate-to-wire fashion.
Very well spread out across the course. Zaragana's moved into second, exactly as still though in front of her as they head down inside the 200-meter mark. Subiot exactly still showing in front. Zaragana, Vertical Blue between the two. They're coming towards the winning line now. And Zaragana and Vertical Blue, there's nothing between the pair at the winning post. It's wide open, 200 meters to go now. And as they run to the closing stages, Cami Pissarro from Rushabar, who's putting in a challenge to him. It'll be this pair as they race towards the line. Rushabar, the far side of Cami Pissarro. Cami Pissarro to Rushabar, misunderstood, and Field of Gold was behind.
It was Marvelous Madison who bolted, and that just drifts out Lavender Disaster and Grace and Grit. All three run into trouble as Marvelous Madison bolted at that turn, and they have reached the top of the lane, and Scythian has now taken the lead. It's Scythian who starts to sprint away. Here in the clear is Virgin Colada in full pursuit, also trying to run on Coretto and Rare Art, but it's Scythian who's in front. Scythian and Junior Alvarado, they will win the Miss Grillo and punch their ticket to the Breeders' Cup.
They turn for home. They've all got to catch Clock Tower, and here's Cavallo Bay, and Golden Afternoon now kicks in. Cavallo Bay, Golden Afternoon, Clock Tower fighting on to the inside. Warlander is still fourth. Cavallo Bay far outside, Clock Tower inside. Golden Afternoon between that pair. Golden Afternoon, Clock Tower. Here's Minaret Station for a huge upset. Minaret Station, 38-1, rallying for Christian Torres.
We're going to the Breeders' Cup. sorry. On mic. We've had technical difficulties on this side in the Carruthers household. Sorry about that. I'm going to be bringing you that footage in just a second because it's really good, featuring Minaret Station and his whole team, including trainer Will Walden, who is my very special guest on today's episode of the Future Stars Forecast. And Will, you know that I've been having these difficulties on the tech side. So thank you for bearing with me.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
Well, I already have a comment here. Jose Martinez Jr. saying, big fan of Will.
Jose, appreciate that. It's always nice to hear.
Well, I mean, has it sunk in, the big win and you're in? You are going to the Breeders' Cup with that ticket to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf.
Yeah, it's sunk in. Had I not gotten all the text messages and phone calls that I've received over the past 2 days, maybe not this fast, but yeah, it's sunk in. You know, he's a deserved colt, and we wouldn't trade places with anyone.
Well, I just think it was so cool to see him because it was like he came out of nowhere. You saw him sort of angle out there. I'm going to show the whole replay in just a little bit. But the acceleration that he had there in stretch was just one of those things that kind of took your breath away. Yeah,
you know, we had caught a glimpse of it in the race before in his maiden win at Horseshoe, Indianapolis. He actually hit the top of the stretch in front. He just kind of inherited it due to a pace meltdown. He kind of tracked in third or fourth throughout most of the race. And by the time they hit the quarter pole in the top of the lane, he was in front and started to just kind of wait around. And by the time he got to the 16th pole, a horse of Brendan Walsh's came to him flying off the outside with Luan Machado. And as soon as he saw him, I mean, he kicked it into high gear. They actually finished the last eighth of a mile in 11-2 or 11-1. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
And he galloped out in front. So he showed us a glimpse there of that turn of foot.
Yes.
It was, you know, he's young. He's a young, immature baby, and still got a lot of baby qualities about him. I still, even after last weekend, I'm not fully sold that he's quite knows what to do yet.
Oh, really?
He's getting there. Oh, yeah. No, he's getting there. Like, I think he'll be a really, really talented 3-year-old, really talented 4-year-old. He's just kind of doing everything on spec right now.
Gosh, how exciting is that? If you think that you're just now you know what I'm saying? This is late in the 2-year-old season. And so that is very exciting to contemplate the possibilities.
No, sure. It's exciting right now if you got a precocious one. I'd say it's even more exciting if you got one you think will go on past his 2-year-old year. And that's how we feel about this horse.
Well, I would be remiss. I would like for you to introduce yourself to our audience who might not already know about you. Of course, we all know Elliott Walden, your father. He's the president and CEO of WinStar Farm. And before that, taking that role, just a really phenomenal trainer. Victory Gallop comes to mind. Are you old enough to remember some of these great horses of his?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was. He took me to the Belmont for Menifee the following year, and I think.
Oh, really?
I think we finished 12th, and I was upset I didn't get to go that year. We were, when he stopped training, I just really started to, got that bug. I'd kind of taken the fact that he trained horses because it's all I knew that he ever did for granted as a child. And didn't appreciate it for what it was. And when he stopped training, there was a big void there for a while. I really, really missed it. Those years of Victory Gallop and Menifee, Acton Park, Plenty of Light, they were all good horses. And it just seemed like he was starting to get that really top echelon type of horse.
Yes.
And he'll tell you, I mean, I berated him I was 14 years old, and I berated him for a year. Didn't let up on him every day about going to work for WinStar full time instead of training horses. And I'm glad he didn't listen to me.
I think I read somewhere that he put a shank in your hand for the first time at a pretty young age.
Yeah, the first time he did, I remember the horse's name. Her name was Zeta. and she was a small black filly. I can't remember who she was by, but yeah, he let me cool her out at Churchill Downs, and the second one he let me cool out was at Payson Park, and almost got loose. Horse named Mr. John, who actually ran in the Preakness.
Really?
Yeah, this is when he was a young horse. But no, it was. I used to spend a lot of time in that shed row, and miss it a lot, and learned a lot. And he had such a cool team, from his assistants all the way down to his hot walkers. It was just kind of a family-oriented place, and definitely, it was the first, kind of knowledge base I got for the game.
What are some of the key, foundational bits of advice that you remember from that time, and how do you find yourself applying it today?
I don't know exactly how much advice was given, because he didn't care. If I wanted to be a high school football coach, or I wanted to go into economics or be an architect, he didn't care. He just wanted me to do what made me happy. And I think at that time, I was still so young. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I played football. I played basketball. I evented horses with my mom.
Wow, I did not.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother world there.
Yeah. I had a Percheron pony named Bulldozer, and we tore it up.
Oh my goodness. All right. Now you got to love those horses. They've got some good minds on them.
That's probably where most of the foundation went in, was just, learning how to communicate with the horse, both on the ground. When you're eventing, you're doing everything. You're the groom, you're the hot walker, you're the rider, you're it all. And my mom is an excellent horsewoman in her own right. She galloped for my dad for years and helped him start the barn until she had 3 kids, and she decided to hang up her tack or boots and stay at home full time. But really, for my mom and dad, it was all about patience. Listen to the horse, and at the end of the day, one of my dad's favorite sayings, something I use today, is use a bad race for something good. And I think the bigger picture of that is that there's a positive to be found in anything.
Oh yes.
You may go to Ellis, or you may drive all the way to Horseshoe, Indianapolis, and you may get your butt whooped, but there's always something positive to take away from it, and in a way to use it to the horse and into your advantage in the next start.
I love that. Yeah, and applying it to life too, right?
Absolutely.
And you can speak to that. I will not even begin to try to tell your story for you. So if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was a rocky road there for a while. Once I got out of college and stuff, I had a 12-year battle with drugs and alcohol, and I was actually talking, a jocks agent, who I won't mention his name, came into my office this morning at Turfway Park because his son's struggling, and was asking for advice and what to do and where to go and where exactly he should seek help and how he can help his boy, Yeah. And I watched my dad do that for years. I took them on, I destroyed my family, loved ones, all relationships, for years, just tore it down. And I look back on it, and there's I wouldn't trade it, because there was a lot of strength and resolve, I think, that came from it, and a lot of life lessons learned. I wouldn't recommend learning them that way,
Right.
anybody. But yeah, it got to the point where I was, spending a lot of time in jail, a lot of time in hospitals, in the back of an ambulance,
Oh my gosh.
for years. And, it got to the point where, my family, they started preparing for my funeral rather than my next birthday or seeing me on Christmas, or it had gotten to that point. And it got to that point for a lot of guys that I know, and a lot of guys that actually work for me now, work in the barn, work with these horses, work with Minaret Station. Got to that point. I'm not unique. I finally got to rock bottom and had the willingness was produced to do whatever it took. And, I didn't create a way out of this. I just listened to a bunch of people that were in my corner, had my best interest at heart, and knew what to do when I didn't. And I leaned on them, and I still lean on them today.
Wow. I mean, it's one of those things. I've spoken with your father before, not about your situation, but just, we've discussed faith before and whatnot. But, we hear of, people will go through trying times, whether self-inflicted or whether just by circumstance. And when they can pull themselves up and pull themselves out and look back, and instead of saying, why did that happen to me? They use it for a greater good.
Sure.
And that is what you're doing. As you discussed, you have these other young people working with you at the barn, and other people who have been through problems, much like yourself, who are there with you at the barn. And there's something about the horse. There's this old Winston Churchill saying there's something about the outside of a horse that's good for the inside of a man. And I think that is so true.
It's actually been like the next idea for a tattoo for the longest time.
No, really?
I can't get away. I can't get away from the barn long enough to sit in a chair and actually get it tattooed on me. But no, I think when I heard that quote, it was, just probably the same way when you heard the quote. Anybody that does this industry, that's in this industry and does it with the passion that we do, that quote just makes so much sense. And I actually gained a deeper respect for Winston Churchill because, I know he understands, what it's like. And that bond with the horse is like nothing else. And I've seen it with these guys day in and day out. Just, they may have a bad day, and it just takes a simple look from the horse or just something that they perceive as affection to just completely turn it around.
I think they're so wonderful. And like you said, yeah, they're there. They're so empathic. They feel your emotions. They can feed off them. Sometimes when we see barns having a real good meet, there's been a confidence and just sort of a flow through the shed row, so to speak. And so the horses feel, and the horses do well, and vice versa. And it's just, I feel like the horse has been with us through the biggest ups and biggest downs of civilization. And we often talk about, with horse racing specifically, how, with trying to attract more fans, part of the problem has been that they don't have that close relationship with the horse anymore. Automobiles replace them. They don't need them for, right? We have grocery stores, so you don't need them to till your ground and all of this. But the horse has always been there. Historically, you look at any of these old bas-reliefs, you look at trade through the Silk Road and other routes historically, just up until the Industrial Revolution, they've been right there. And I believe they were given to us with that mindset to be that companion. So I just find it fascinating that we can see that bond played out there on the backside.
No doubt. And it's, the program that I went through, that a lot of the guys that come to me on the racetrack go through, like they're making moves. Like they work out at WinStar, they work out at Coolmore, several other farms. They're in the process of working out something with Keeneland to do something there. Yeah, no, they're it's, the need is there, and it's good now to see a treatment facility centered around the industry that's willing to try to meet that need wherever they can. And stable recovery. My best friend, Christian Counselor, that runs it, guy who, he brought me food to so many different motel rooms when I wasn't physically able to. I couldn't get out of, I couldn't move.
Oh gosh.
And the guy never left. And to see him head up this program and to take it from where it started to where it is now. And where he wants to go with it is, it's inspirational, and he's helped me so much along the way. And he was, when that Jocks agent came into my office this morning, that's who I called, it's a cool thing. And I think as we go farther and the years progress, we'll see more of a need met than just the issue, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does. Was Christian there with you this Sunday? Was he at
No,
the track?
I called him on my way home. I said, "Where were you?" And he's actually, while he does all this, he's getting a degree. And
Really?
he had homework for college that he had to finish up.
Hey, you got to get the work done, right?
Got to get the work done. But we spoke on the phone on the way home, and he couldn't have been happier. I think he's gonna come out to the Breeders' Cup.
That's wonderful. But it is so interesting what you're saying, because the world that you talked about that was dragging you down is such a world of chaos. And anybody who's worked with horses knows that being part of that, it's all about order. Horses love order. They love consistency and all that. So going from that to the grounding, it must be something you feel innately then. I mean, as soon as you step out of your car to go tend to the horses for that day, right?
Yeah, I think a routine is when you take those first steps to try to get sober. That's what they preach is this positive day by day routine. And it correlates with the horses. Like you said, they love it. They thrive on it. The routine is something that predictability isn't fearful, right? Like there's no fear in predictability. So when these horses can see what's coming, because their innate nature is a prey animal, is to always be on the lookout. When you can help them see what's coming, it allows them to relax. And when you allow the horse to relax, they're able to perform on a daily basis the way they need to. They're able to eat the way they need to. They're able to work and interact with humans the way they need to. And it's all these little things that go into the wins that you saw on Sunday. It's every single bath. It's every single hot walk. It's every single, grooming session, blacksmith. I mean, all of it. It all
cleaning the tack.
So many people went into helping that horse cross the wire the other day that, and unfortunately not all of them could be there because they were taking care of the horses back at the main stable, So just want to, echo that they're the ones who deserve the credit. Them and the horse, they're incredible people, and we wouldn't be doing what we're doing without them.
I think that's beautiful. And just talking about, going through all this, when you finally did decide you wanted to start your own stable, you're like, I got this. Do you remember when you first told your family, and what was the immediate reaction?
Family was the third or fourth person I told. I didn't
really.
Yeah, I had my reputation, of no fault of anybody's but my own, was so tarnished at the time I decided to start training. I couldn't open a public stable. Like there was no way. I was working at I was working for Wendy's, and I just moved out of Wendy's and was working for this drug testing company. So I was doing urine samples on a daily basis. That was my job. And the September sale was coming up in like 3 months, and the program that I went through is heavily involved with TaylorMade. And my very first job between freshman and sophomore year of high school was prepping yearlings for TaylorMade. I went to Saratoga. I worked the Saratoga sale, worked the September sale, worked the October sale, and didn't really know Frank that well back then. Frank Taylor had gotten, knew of him. I was better friends with Duncan's son, Danny, at the time. So I was more familiar with Duncan, but through being in treatment, I really got to know Frank. And I called Frank one afternoon and said, instead of pinhooking 2-year-olds, what about they write these auction races at Churchill Downs for these horses bought for bought or RNA for $50,000 or less,
Yes.
they carry a $92,000 pot.
Which is not.
I said, yeah, which is insane. I said, what about buying a few of these things and not pinhooking them through a 2-year-old sale, but pinhooking them through racing? You know, we can try to knock out pretty much their purchase price by winning these auction races, be it zero, and everything we sell them for at that point is profit. And the reason behind that is because 2-year-old sales, like that sale date is not moving. That
Not
horse,
right.
that horse's scheduled is catered by the sale. Whereas these races, you have a handful of them. You can pick them out at different meets. You got the whole year to enter in one of them, and you can more cater to the horse's schedule at that point. I think you end up with a better performance than if you're catering the horse's schedule to something else, to a sale. Anyways, he bought it, raised the money. We ended up buying 10 really cheap horses. We didn't make any money, but we were able to start. We did end up. We had a stakes winner out of the group, filly named Lady Lowry.
Yeah.
That we sold to Eclipse and Gary Barber, and she won the.
Wow.
Now I'm gonna forget the name of the stake at Laurel Park. It's before Keeneland Spring Meet.
I know what you're talking about too, but now I can't think of it.
Beyond the Wire. The Beyond the Wire stakes, a filly named T-Max was stakes placed. We still have a horse named Georgie W, who seems to be his own worst enemy, but is an extremely talented colt. He ran 5th in the Indiana Derby, and he was a $10,000 yearling purchase.
Oh my gosh.
So we purchased these, really, really cheap horses, and we brought them to Keeneland that following spring. We had one make a start in a Keeneland 2-year-old race, and a couple of them won, a couple of them, placed or won in stakes. And it just, we started Elliott Logan, I think, TEC Racing in Cypress Creek Equine were my first outside clients. Elliott wanted to claim horses. Mike Moreno or Cypress Creek gave me a 2-year-old Ransom the Moon colt out of the Mid-Atlantic 2-year-old sale that RNA'd. They got they scratched. They got no action. Horse named Clear the Air. That was we still have him. He won his last out was a win in a 2 other than at Saratoga this summer. And it just kind of snowballed, and built the stable up from there.
It is incredible. I think you announced in 2022, and your stable hits so consistently. If you just look at the percentages, so consistently, you're basically in the money in half your starts.
Yeah, well, I mean, we try to be aggressive in where we place these horses.
Yeah, aggressive but smart. I mean, you're very tactical. We got to kind of like look at horse racing when you're looking at the trainer's perspective, and you get that condition book. It's a little bit like, the old school game of war, where you got to position your army.
No, to where you can be most tactically sound. And I think it's, I was on a radio show, the Horse Racing Network radio show. Hannah, last week, and I was talking about he asked me what I've learned the most since training horses. And even though I never worked for Brad Cox, my wife Tessa is an assistant for him, and she is she's an awesome horsewoman. But by proxy, being with her the past 2 years, I've seen a lot of I've been involved with their stable as well, just by either saddling horses for her when she was pregnant, or helping her clock if she needs me to. But anyways, one thing I've learned from Brad, just by being an outsider and seeing it from an outside perspective, is not being afraid who Brad has. If you look at his percentages across 2-year-olds, turf, dirt, older, stakes, claiming, whatever the category is, I challenge you to find a Brad Cox statistic that isn't extremely strong. And I think a lot of it dates back to that. He's not afraid to expose these horses in the morning.
Yeah.
You breeze the A's with the A's, the B's with the B's, and the C's with the C's. Whereas I think sometimes, especially when you're a smaller stable and you have a horse that is starting to breeze well in the mornings, you're not used to that feeling when the horse breezes, that good feeling that they give you, and you want to protect it. And I think the natural human reaction is to protect it by placing them with horses you know are lesser, so that and I don't think you do the horse any justice.
Right.
I think you have to expose these horses in the morning. And sometimes there are some that don't get exposed. There are some that expose everybody else. But I think you got to try to know what you have, and it allows you to place these horses more aggressively and with a little bit smaller target, I guess, or a bigger target.
Well, to your point, iron sharpens iron. So it makes so much sense. Yeah, we have actually some people commenting here. Bobby tunes in every week. Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, Bobby. We actually have almost 750 people watching live right now. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you do have a question for Will, go ahead, pop it up. Oh, he's got one for you here. Will has a horse I have in my virtual stable called Rhetorical. He's a very nice horse with a ton of upside and potential.
Yeah, Rhetorical actually just had a small setback. He went to the farm. He'll be back,
sorry.
but yeah, it was a bummer. Just came out of a work and just like something very, very minor. He'll be back, but we just we felt it in his best interest to give him a little time. But Bobby, you're not wrong. He's extremely talented gelding. He displayed that in his first start at Saratoga, and a turn of foot that's not dissimilar to what we saw Minaret Station do the other day. Very, very fast, not this time. And no, he's going to have a big future going forward.
That's awesome. How many horses do you currently have in the barn?
I think we're up to 30, 28, 30.
Wow. And so what was it like when you put up the shingle for the first time?
I mean, to be honest, like there really wasn't a whole ton of pressure. Like I only had one client. It was Frank Taylor.
Yeah.
That's the only one I had to answer to. If it hit, great. We got to build a business. If it didn't, nobody thought it was going to anyways. And I didn't burn a lot of people up. It was, that being said, I was determined to make it work. I started with two guys. It was just a guy that was in treatment with me, and we taught him how to ride. So he's breaking these yearlings. He's breaking these babies. He's never been on a thoroughbred before. So as it was.
That's incredible.
No, it was wild. It was in the guy that was grooming him, a guy named Mike Lowry. He's now a divisional broodmare manager at TaylorMade. Phenomenal horseman. And so is Tyler Maxwell. Tyler Maxwell is the kid I'm talking about, led Minaret Station in the winter circle the other day.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I talk about this dynamic of how cool it was to watch these humans and these horses, these babies. They, very rarely does everybody start on the same playing field. Like these horses knew as much as the humans, and the humans knew as much as the horses. And each day you could see them. Like the horse might learn this much that day, and then the human would meet him, and then vice versa. And it was really cool through that whole process of going to Ocala in preparation to come back to Keeneland in the spring to watch these horses and these guys interact and teach each other the game of horse racing.
That's amazing. I'm sorry, I'm tearing up. I've grown up with horses all my life, and I feel like they're this tremendous gift, as we've already discussed. And I just love hearing this because, I think as I said before, when there's chaos and you can come out of that. You can come out of that chaos, and there can be order, and there can be beauty, and you don't ever have to be defined by what was in your past, and you move forward and you develop into something else. And like with the horses developing, and it's such a moving way to look at something that normally, a lot of people when they go to the track, they're not necessarily thinking about all the things that go into the backside.
No.
But there's a world going on the backside.
Its own world.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can put it into, you can't explain the backside to anyone.
No.
You can try, but they're not going to, you don't get it until you get it, until you're there. And like I said, it was really cool and really interesting. I felt like a professor doing his own case study on like horse and human interaction.
Yeah.
And I in turn learned a lot, I learned, what it's like to learn through a green set of eyes. I grew up with this stuff. So I grew up, mucking stalls for my mom before I went to church before I went to Sunday school. Like, it was really cool to watch. And just the bond that they developed. That guy, Mike Lowry, our very first winner, was a filly named Dazzling Dominica, and she won an auction race at Churchill Downs. And it was from the start, he said, "This is the one." And he didn't know what he was saying. He had no idea. He said, "This is the one."
He just knew. This
is the one. And he loved that filly. He treated all of them great, but he just doted over this filly every single day. And I've got pictures of him grazing her out at Keeneland by himself, just out there. And he's got his arm around her. And he was able to lead her into the winner's circle for the first time, his very first win picture. And it was, I don't know, it was something I'll never forget. It's, these new, like, we won a graded stake earlier this year, and people asked me, like, was this your favorite win?
With Pipsy?
I don't think anything will be as my favorite win is the day that Dazzling Dominica won at Churchill Downs, and it was just me and Mike and another guy that Levi Dunlap was there to lead her in, and it was, I don't know, it was cool.
I think that is beautiful. And hey, Johnny Ortiz.
Johnny.
Hey, he said, I don't know what that means, but
I don't know what that means either.
If you would care to explain or elaborate, Johnny, feel free. He's great. I've had him on the show before.
Johnny's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome horseman too.
Yes, and always coming with the suit when it's time.
Mr. Cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. So okay, well, in terms of then, okay, you've got the business going. Is there anything that you thought would be really hard that ended up being super easy? And was there anything that you thought would be piece of cake that actually ended up being difficult?
No, I think, I guess what's difficult? How much time do you have?
I've got all night.
It's, managing expectations is a tough one that I didn't foresee having to do. My own as well as others is something that's more difficult than I anticipated. Something that's easier, I don't know that any of it's easy, and these guys, the team that I have in place that work, they make it easy. They do such a good job and they pour so much into it that it's a great place to drive into work in the morning. And, it's a team that's fired up and ready to tackle, the horses we got running this week.
I think it's awesome. And you do. Before we actually get back to talking about Minaret Station, let's talk about the horses you do have entered later this week. You've got quite a few, but in particular in the stakes races, you've got a horse entered in the Sycamore, and then you also, let me see here, I'm going to pull up you have Big Blue Line in the Sycamore. So we'll start there. And this is a horse that was claimed for $80,000, and he got you a win there on the dirt. And while 8th in the John Henry, he was only beaten 5 lengths.
He was second to last last turning for home on a, I watched a replay of the John Henry before the race, the last 4 runnings, and the last 3 runnings went wire to wire. In the 4th one in 2021 or 2020, the horse that tried to go wire to wire got beat a nose. So we wanted to be forwardly placed. We didn't end up there due to the break and just the way it played out. We found ourselves towards the back. So honestly, that's why we're back in so quick, is because the horse really didn't get to do much running. I did clock him from the quarter pole to the wire in 21-4. So he did make.
Oh wow!
He actually, he made up a lot. He made up a lot of ground, more ground than most in the race.
And after all the being on heels and all that.
Yeah, and I thought he displayed that he could handle the distance. He could certainly handle the turf. So we're a long shot. But I think the horse will perform, and it's a difficult race. There's some really nice horses in there, and there's some really good accomplished connections in there. But we're gonna take a shot, and we look to have him kind of on that marathon division trail next year. Is really the year we're looking at for him. We're kind of troubleshooting right now.
That's all right. Hey, you figure it out. And then you've got Pipsy in the Grade 2 Franklin on Sunday.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep her local. She's trained. She's breezed a lot over that turf course. She didn't get to run in it. I had her entered in the spring meet at Keeneland in a race there, and it actually rained off. It actually scratched off the grass, and that's why we went. It allowed us to go to the Soaring Softly, because I don't think we would have made both starts. So we went to the Soaring Softly instead. But she's worked over it a bunch. She's got a good draw and outside post. Obviously, Johnny V takes the mount, who's he's so good across the board, both surfaces and distances. But he's one of Wesley Ward's main go-tos for turf sprinting, and I think it's for a reason. He's really, really good at it. So we'll let him navigate a trip with him. It's against Olders, and I think she's a talented 3-year-old. I think she'll be a really talented 4-year-old. But we're excited to get her out there on Sunday.
What was it like? I mean, she was with Jared Lyons overseas before she came over here. What's it like taking a horse? Oh, before I go on, John Ortiz, elaborate. He says, big up and coming trainer. It's our time, our generation to show what we have. Great job, Will. Class guy. I love that.
Johnny's the best.
You gotta love camaraderie.
The best thing about Johnny is I never know when we train at Keeneland during the spring. So we stable at Keeneland together after the spring meet all the way through, as much summer stabling as we can. I stay there till the end. He usually goes to Ellis and Saratoga. But I never know where I'm going to see Johnny. I don't know if I'm going to see him on the road. I don't know if I'm going to see him on the pony. I don't know if I'm going to be clocking him, breezing, because the horse makes a move turning down the lane that I just pull my watch out and start clocking. Yeah. I never know where I'm going to find him.
I love that.
But needless to say, he's a tremendous horseman. And to do all those things I just mentioned, to breeze your own horse's clock, I'll either find him in the grandstand or by the gap with a snap shank waiting to bring one home. Really, really solid horseman. And, it shows the way his horses ran in Saratoga and the percentage he put on in just the way his horse has been running all over.
How he got Brightwork back. And
I thought that was really impressive. Awesome. Especially after what happened initially. Johnny didn't panic. He brought her back a couple weeks later and thumped him. He's a really, really talented guy and a great person.
I think we're embarrassing him. I love it. But again, I have this picture of him from the Keeneland paddock because I was doing the social media stuff or helping out with some other things for content gathering last week. And he's all up in his suit. I'm telling you, it'd make a great profile picture, John. Just saying. Make a great this is a great profile picture too, but if you need more or more pictures to rotate through the avatars, I got you covered.
I saw the black on black the other day, John. It was slick.
I know. If I was a dude, I'd be styling that way.
Yeah, no, Johnny's got it going on.
For sure. Jacob Danny says, I went 8 deep in that last leg in the pick 4. You're a great trainer. I need to use you on my tickets more.
Appreciate that, Jacob.
Yeah.
Always happy to help somebody get the pick 4 home.
Right on. And gotta love the price. So with Pipsy, as I was saying, what is it like when you get a horse that's been trained overseas and then getting them accustomed to the way we do it here?
Well, it was a bit of a learning curve. I
Hmm.
had no idea. I didn't go over there. I went to the Tattersalls December sale last year. Guy that Woodford Thoroughbreds, John Sykes, awesome guy. Been a big supporter of mine. He was actually involved in the initial 10 that we bought. He was one of the supporters, and he just, he just did it to help us out because
Yeah.
he believed in what we were trying to do. He said he wanted to go over there and he wanted to buy some Saturday afternoon horses, and we bought it. I once I realized what we were going to have to pay for these things, I was like, well, we're not gonna. But he was game. He was
I love it.
he was so game. He said we were going to buy 2, and we got the 2, and he said, now you got to go for the 2-year-old. And we were able to buy Pipsy,
Oh.
and we got him over to Turfway. So it was nice. I think, a big part of the Phillies' success was being able to come to a synthetic track. They were able to come on and get off the plane and go through quarantine, then ship into Turfway, which I think that surface is a little bit more to their liking than maybe a dirt would. And it allowed them to stay in the feed tub a little bit more. It allowed them to get acclimated a little bit better. And Turfway in the winter, the track stays open. The training hours are like from 7 to 10. And I was able to take them out at like 9:45 when it was quiet. And we started with the basics. We started going the right way. We learned how to backtrack. They don't backtrack over there. So
Okay.
I borrowed a pony and got on the pony and jogged in front of them while all 3 of them jogged behind me like they were babies. And it really didn't take a lot on my part. They're really, really professional fillies, and they took to it right like that. And now you couldn't separate them from any of the other horses in the barn.
No, I think that's wonderful. I mean, and she won first out for the barn. Then the Tepin looks like speed and just kind of what happened there? Is the mile distance?
It's really hard. It's hard for me to solely blame it, just because the way she won the first one, I swore she was going to get the mile. I brought a couple other fillies over that were running. Their trip was 6-7 furlongs, and they're getting a mile and an 8 mile over here. And the way she breezes and the way she's able to relax, I thought she would get the mile. I blame myself. If I was going to try the mile, I waited like 8 weeks, or I waited almost 8 weeks between the Soaring Softly and the Tepin. I don't know the exact. You got the dates right in front of you. I don't.
Yeah. So May 12th for the Soaring Softly, and also everybody. I mean, grade 3 Soaring Softly. So huge win for the barn to come out like that for sure. And then June 29th for the Tepin.
Yeah. So coming up on 8. It was, like I said, I blame myself. I think I waited too long between races, and she was so primed and she was so ready to go that I let her over at Churchill, and it's the new paddock, and I think the bright lights and got to her, and Flavian said as soon as she broke, she displaced her airway.
Oh, okay.
And so once that happened, he said he just felt her just completely tense up underneath him, and she started to displace. And once that happened, it's not going to go well from there.
No. And not to interrupt, but we have almost 900 people watching right now, and I'm sure a lot of them, some of them probably know what you're talking about, and some of them don't know what that means. As somebody who, obviously I'm racing, so I do, but could you explain when you say displace what that means to maybe in the most layman of terms?
It would be like that little thingy in the back of your throat, being flatter and kind of gripping over the bottom of your throat and completely cutting off most of your airway and impeding it. They can still breathe, but it's not a smooth airflow. And for horses, they have to take in so much oxygen to propel that blood through their body because of how high the heart rate is. That if the breathing is any way impeded, their effectiveness is just gonna be rendered useless pretty much. And if you watch that replay of the Tepin, I mean, she was rendered useless. I think she finished last, and Flavian wrapped up on her at the top of the lane. He did the right thing by her.
Yeah.
And we were able to bring her back. We got rained out again in Saratoga. That's where we were going to come back, and ended up having to pivot and go to Kentucky Downs. And it went well. It went really well. I thought she was going to get there. And watching the replay several times, the filly came on her outside, and the Pipsy was kind of in the 2 path, and the filly that ended up the eventual winner was in the 5 path.
Mm-hmm.
And as she came up to Pipsy, she drifted over and over and over, not in any way impeding us.
Right.
But just Louis Size did what he was supposed to do, and get up on that other horse and look her eye to eye. And just for a second, she kind of popped and hesitated for a second and switched leads. And I think it cost her.
Half length was the margin ultimately.
She's so lightly raced. I think it was nothing more than that. But
that's such a different turf course too. I mean, in Europe they have more of the undulation that we might see at a track like Kentucky Downs, but it's such a cool track, and the purse. I mean, that purse there, $2 million. So not a bad one to, if you're going to lose, not bad to still finish in the money there.
No, absolutely. She didn't make as much as most would have because she's not KTDF registered because she's from Ireland, but still a solid purse for running second.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I think I figured out remember when we didn't know the finger red number 1? I think it's just, this says stopwatch blue hand timer. I think it's supposed to, the emoji itself doesn't show up in the comment, but the key words for the emoji do. I think that's what this is. At first I thought John was speaking in code.
He does that sometimes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Everybody, by the way, again, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. We've got 915 people watching us live. If you have a comment, question for Will, by all means, go ahead and pop it up. I find this conversation just so cool for so many different reasons. But taking it back now to the When You're In and with Minaret Station, do you remember when he first came to your barn, your first impressions of this colt?
Yeah, I do. Don Chatlos called me. I was heading to Churchill. I was trying to remember the other day, actually, who I was going to saddle at Churchill. And it bugs me that I can't remember, but I can't. And
it's okay.
He called me, and he said, I got 2 horses to send you. One is a older horse named Event Detail, who won off a 17-month layoff at Ellis this summer for us in our first start with him. And the other was an Instilled Regard 2-year-old out of Bow Recall. And
she was nice.
I knew the mare because I was a big fan. I'm such a fan of those game fillies.
Yeah.
The ones who dig in and just, they're salt to the earth. And that's what she was. And that was kind of right as Brad was really starting to rise.
Cox mare, yeah.
And anyways, I was a big fan of hers. And it's funny because my wife, way before we met, had worked with Bow Recall when she was with Brad. And so she was excited I was getting the horse. And he was real professional from day one. Very professional in the morning. In fact, like I expected him to be really tough first time out because of how professional he acted in the morning. And then he was really green in the race, ran in spots the whole way. He'd grab the bridle for about 6 strides and then drop it and kind of look around. And then he'd do the same thing. And just, as the jock explained it, he ran in spots. He ran in for certain parts of the race, and he just kind of sat and idle for the others. And I thought second time out he would be better, and he was. He was able to get the job done at at a little bit softer venue than Ellis in Indiana.
Yeah, Horseshoe, yeah.
And he's improved in his works and his professionality in the morning, and still very green. Still, to some, every horse has the same face, different color, but he's got a baby face. Those young horses, how they still have that juvenile look.
Yes, I do.
In
Yeah.
their eye, in their face. He still has it. He's got so much growing up to do, and he's really exciting to have he's an exciting one to have in the barn.
Well, it's awesome. I mean, you already talked about how game his mother was. Again, that's Beau, recalled by Sir Prancelot. And yeah, I mean, she was in the money in 17 of 30 starts. Those graded stakes wins, like in the Yellow Ribbon. I think she doubled up in the Distaff Turf Mile. She was, as you said, one of those game mares that's a joy to watch. And then this is Minaret Station is a homebred for OXO Equine, and they campaigned to instill regard as well. The sire, and this is his first crop. So do you feel it's extra cool for that connection, for the ownership to have that connection, but also, I mean, to represent the first crop, it helps build that stallion's reputation as well.
Absolutely, it's a win for Larry Best in OXO on so many different fronts. I mean, how many times, how much more do people appreciate winning graded stakes or grade ones or classics, what have you? Outside of that, just a maiden race with homebreds, horses that they remember typing the nick in on their computer and praying to God it was an A+. And, and this guy owns the mare and he owns the stallion and campaigned the stallion. I think he's got 5 winners from 16 or 17 starts.
And he's at tailor-made, so it kind of pulls that back in for you for the story as well. I mean,
Frank
I
was
love
the
it.
first phone call I got, and it was. It's just exciting all the way around for him. But no, the stallion's legit. I mean, we talked about the mom, but he was no slouch.
No,
he was dirt turf. Ran Kentucky Derby, grade 1 winner on turf. And I think the arch influence came through pretty heavy on this horse. He's taller than his mother. His mother was not a big filly. He's a very tall, correct, scopy, pretty horse. I think he gets a lot of that from instilled regard. And I hope I get to train more of them.
Well, it is interesting. I mean, what a bargain. He stands for $7,500, or at least he did in 2024. Maybe we get a bump up for 2025, considering everything. But he sold for over $1 million as a 2-year-old at OBS, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the son of Arch out of the forestry mare Enhancing. I mean, that's the family of Heavenly Prize, Good Reward. Just really nice black type on that page. And we already talked about the mare and what she brings to the table. So yeah, it's really exciting. And as you were saying at the top of the show, just to think that this horse is only, he's just getting his paces. He's still a baby, and there's just so much more into which he can develop. I think now would be a good time to actually show the Bourbon in its entirety, and you can take us through the race. And then after that, I'm going to try to show the video I put together that I had the technical glitch on at the beginning of the show. So let's go ahead. We'll share the screen, and we will show the Bourbon Stakes, the Castle and Key Bourbon Stakes at Keeneland this past Sunday. So here we go.
Yeah. Oh, we had, me and Christian and Don had talked in the paddock about letting the race develop in front of him. Right here, Christian, he takes back behind the 4-horse. I think he probably wanted to be in front of him. We talked about being a little bit behind mid-pack, not all the way towards the back. But
yes,
the 4 didn't break that well, who's one of the favorites, Giacoso. And he's a more forwardly placed type horse, and he had the speed that he was going to carry that horse up. If Christian didn't take back, he was going to carry him wide, because that horse, he wouldn't go out foot that horse into the first turn. So he found himself here. It's a solid pace up front. And right here, Minaret Station's kind of taking Christian up into the race, kind of slow it down. It went 22 and change, and then 47 and change. So they slowed it down quite a bit and was allowed him to kind of come up into the race. Here, you know, you got to love being on the rail in a 2-turn turf race. The only fear, obviously, when you're on the rail in a 12-horse field is, am I going to get free? And didn't know if the pace was going to back up in here. You're seeing Christian's like having to, like, he's still green. Like, you see how much turn of foot he's got at the end of the race. He's having to ask him pretty good right here.
Yes.
Just to kind of keep up into it. And he travels up. He hits him. I think he hits right-handed, or he keeps him left-handed, but goes inside the Steve Asmussen horse. And he's starting to really pick it up, and you realize how much horse he's got. And as soon as he gives him daylight right here, he just hits another gear.
That was crazy.
Yeah. No, he's got an electric turn of foot, and goes on and just kind of gallops out. And yeah, that was
so great. It was so great. Did you expect him to just, you know, because there has been people who have criticized when there have been past races with various different horses that, you know, you watch in any given day, and somebody will be like, oh, you saw that turn of foot. That's what real turn of foot looks like. You know, there's been a debate. What is turn of foot? That's what turn of foot is right there.
Yeah, no, if you want to show somebody, you know, if you want to put it in black and white and say what is turn of foot, it's that. And thought he had it, but I'm not going to lie to you. I thought greenness was going to get the best, could get the best of this horse on that day. Solely because he's so lightly raced. He's still so immature that you make, you just make one mistake in a race like that in a graded stake, it costs you. It's not like you can make one or two maybe in a maiden race against horses that aren't winners yet and get by with it just on sheer talent. These are talented horses he's running against. But I mean, the way he went inside and then back outside, saw daylight, hit the afterburners. It just goes to show, like, it'll be, it just gives you something to look forward to. What's it gonna look like when he has Christian bent in half at the head of the lane, and he knows as soon as he gets the first cross thrown at him to just turn it on. And, you know, I think we'll see that in the future and going forward, and just a really exciting horse to have in the barn, and just so grateful to train for guys like Larry and Don, and the opportunity that they gave us is just, it's really rewarding, and they're really, really good guys to be involved with.
I think it's so great. I'm going to try showing that video now, but while I try to cue it up, Christian Torres, his wife Valerie, their little girl, I see them at the track together as this family unit all the time. So it's so cool. It is so cool to see Christian getting a win in your in here with a horse like Minaret Station, and just to see them celebrate as well was endearing. And I have part of that as part of the montage here. But before I try to show that, how did Christian originally get the call on this horse?
Yeah, and you know, I kind of feel bad that we haven't talked enough about Christian in this episode, because wow, what a ride, and what he's so talented. You know, somebody was asking me the other day before I entered in that race, would I keep Christian on? And I was like, man, I'm trying to think of the last bad ride Christian gave me, and I can't think of one. If he's lost a race for me, it's because I put him on a lesser horse, or he didn't have any horse. The guy he's very tactically sound. Mm-hmm. He's very patient. And his hand don't shake. He stays very, very cool no matter the stage. We talked about it in the paddock. We had a plan. The plan made sense to him. And he went out there and, along with Minaret Station, executed it to perfection. And I think Christian's an extremely talented rider, very young, and still, you know, in an upward trajectory in his own career. He got the mount. Well, we were at Ellis, and I was talking to Don Chatlos, the racing manager for OXO, and we were talking about who to put on, and we were talking about riders that we both felt comfortable with, that we trusted, that we thought would would go out there and not only educate the horse, but give us feedback that we could use to go forward. And we came up with Christian, and boy, we look like geniuses now, huh?
Oh gosh, he is one of those difference maker riders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just something, you trainers have that horse sense, the riders that have that as well. There's just something, I can't really define it, but it's an innate talent that they come with. And he's so good. He's just so good. And he's so consistent.
I think one thing, a good way to explain what you're saying is Christian speaks really good English. And in the interview afterwards, he had trouble explaining what he was doing throughout the race. And most people are going to attribute that to a language barrier. But I think when you do things, when you're that innately good, or when you're that natural, there is no, you don't know how to explain it, because it doesn't fall back to a plan that you came up with and tried to execute. You just did it because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he had trouble explaining what he did, because, you ask anybody, people that give good speeches, that do it on spec, that don't write it out, or give a good interview. Most of the people have to watch the interview to know what they said. Mm-hmm. Because they just did it. It just came out. And I think I think Flavian Pratt's the same way. I think Irad's the same way. I think a lot of these top jockeys that are just naturals, they go out there and they do it. It's like you said, they feel it out. They feel the race. They feel the horse. And it's like the Rubik's Cube, it just finally, after you just see it. It's like those architects that see blueprints in 3D.
Yes.
There are guys like that, and I'm certainly not one of them. But we do it with horses, and they're just naturals, and he's one of them. Christian is.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And again, I got this really sweet moment with Christian and his family included in this montage. Let's see if it works. Hopefully it does. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and open, and here we go.
We're going to the Breeders' Cup, baby. We're going to California. Right here, Christian. We're going to take a big circle around to the left. Yep. Over here. Christian, listen. We have a traffic presentation.
Yes, her daddy won the race.
Come here. So ready, we'll swim. Here we go. You ready? There you go. Give your daddy a high five, daddy. There you go.
Yeah!
Stay there.
So yeah, I think you had gone to do an interview when they were doing the "Winning You're In" blanket there, but it was so cool. And yeah, that was my little girl, because she met their daughter at Kentucky Downs last year, and that's how we kind of became all friendly. And it's just so cool to see that. I mean, what is it like for you watching that footage back?
I wish I had my kid there.
How old?
He is 18 months today.
Oh my gosh, Will.
We got another one due in 4 weeks.
Congratulations.
Yeah. No, life happens fast.
Yeah.
And I'll just say that video means more to me now, being a father, than it would have without. Everybody tries to explain it to you before you have kids, what it's going to do to your perspective, what it's going to do to you on the inside, how it's going to make you look at things different. And there's no way to comprehend it or understand it until you do. And, my son is my best friend. and he's got no idea, like
Yeah.
I think I might be his best friend too. But I see that, and I'm just so happy for Christian. He's got a beautiful family, and me and Don went into the stakes room after the race,
Yes.
and we went in there, and they replayed the race for us because we hadn't seen it yet. And after the race, I turned to Don. I was like, I'm going to the test barn. I got to go check on the horse. And he said, I'm coming with you. And he, so we scooted out of there, and Christian still hadn't made it back to the jocks room. Him and his daughter were foot racing in the paddock, just trying to soak it all in. They were interacting with fans and talking to them. And it was the last race of the day. So there wasn't any pressure for anybody to get out of anywhere they were. So, it was really cool to see them enjoy that, soak that in, and get to hopefully see it again in 4 weeks.
And I would think it's kind of surreal. I don't know if you could even hear it in the background or not, because I imagine you grew up going to Keeneland, obviously with your father being a trainer and being based out here in Kentucky, but to hear over the speaker your first stakes win at Keeneland. I don't know. Did you hear that, or did you hear it after the fact? Or
No, never heard it. Obviously, I didn't really even think about it. I was after the race, it's kind of a routine after the race. Like, obviously, you're either filled with regret for winning the race in the first place, or you're overjoyed, or you're ticked off, but your routine stays the same. You talk to the jock, you look the horse over, make sure he's okay. Make sure, the groom and the how know what they're doing and where they're going and what the plan is. And obviously communicating if you've got an owner on hand with him or her and what's going on. So it's this routine that just, you kind of go into autopilot after a race almost. And no, I didn't hear anything they said.
I'll have to send you that little video. I'll send it to you, because in the background you can hear over the speakers, and first stakes win for Will Walden. It was pretty cool. And I thought to myself, gosh, that would be pretty surreal, I think, because I know it's not your first stakes win ever, but at Keeneland, which I would consider to be the home track, right? It's got to be pretty cool. What was it like in terms of your phone? Was it just blowing up?
Oh yeah. It didn't stop. And I didn't even knew that many people had my phone number. I had no idea. Just so grateful for the outpouring and the love. It's one thing I use to describe the bottom that I had before I got sober this last time. And I was in a place where, what I was using on a daily basis was killing a lot of people. And it was about to take me out, and my phone stopped ringing. There were a lot of people that knew. There were a lot of people that knew where I was, knew what I was doing. And I burnt so many people, and so many people had tried to help and were so fed up that I couldn't. It was the most hopeless I've ever felt as a human being, to look down and know that there was a lot of people out there knew what was going on and nobody reached out. And that's not their fault. I put myself in that position. So I say all that to provide a little context to looking down at my phone and seeing 100 text messages, all congratulatory. It's overwhelming. I'm so grateful for those out there that, that take the time out of their day to wish me well. And just hope I can do the same in the future.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's one, if I could sum up just the word that comes to mind most with having this conversation with you specifically, it's the word accountability. You've taken accountability in everything you've brought up, whether you were talking about the problems, whether you were talking about maybe things you could have done differently in terms of even training. accountability keeps coming up every single time you speak about any one of these subjects.
I think the solution's in accountability.
Yeah.
Not just for horse training or sobriety, but I think in fatherhood, I think in dealing with people, I think if you're not willing to look at yourself, if I'm not willing to look in the mirror at face value, not with a clouded or jaded view, or if I'm willing to look at it at face value, what's in the mirror, then I can change for the better. If I know what better looks like, if I know what it is, right, then I can channel towards that direction. But if I'm lying to myself, right, if I'm confused about who I am in the mirror, or what it really is, then what I'm going to change isn't real, right? I'm not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all kind of smoke and mirrors. It's a facade. It's not real. So I don't know. And I learned that the hard way. I learned it a really, really hard way. And there are a lot of people that have learned it the hard way. And it wasn't an original idea. A lot of people sat me down and had to walk me through very simply, Will, this is how you get better. You got to look and I'd nod my head and walk out the room and go back to doing what I was doing. But I'm so fortunate that I had people that were smart enough to sit my butt down and really explain to me what it meant to do something different. And, that there was a God out there who cared. And
I believe that. Absolutely.
And was looking out. And I fully believe that divinely placed these people in my life to channel me in a direction that was positive. And I don't necessarily think God did that for any kind of racing glory. I think it was to get the story out there so that people knew it and that people would feel comfortable coming up and asking for help. And so many of the guys I work with get to help people on a daily basis because the notoriety the horses have garnered along the way, and the stable have garnered. They kind of know what the barn's about, and that we got people that are living a different way, and there are people that want to live a different way. And it's just, I'm not going to ruin anybody's anonymity. I'm not gonna speak on things that guys need to speak for themselves about, but it is to say, like, I get to see human impact and human interaction in such a positive way on a daily basis. I don't know. It's just, it's so rewarding,
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you talk about that and how you say, you would never want anybody to go through what you went through. And then, in talking about it, though, you may be saving somebody from going and experiencing that as well. I mean, and not to put the pressure on of, role model, but like there is that. If there's something that's bad that's happened, you can make something good out of it. The good may be that you've saved somebody else from going down that path.
Use a bad race for something good.
You use a bad race for something good. Absolutely. And I totally agree. I can only speak for myself. This is a Breeders' Cup show. I'm just speaking for myself. I absolutely believe that God's hand is in this. And what was meant for evil is now, you're going to use it for good. And I am so impressed. I've known your dad for years. I mean, I've seen him around. I've interviewed him before, and he, like you, was just way tall. So I'm not going to be like this. But, sure. and I know how strong his faith is, and he's just got to be so overjoyed.
Yeah, no, he's definitely proud, and our relationship's better than ever. I'm going to go ahead and apologize if this thing cuts off.
I'm so sorry. Yes, I kept you long.
No. I'm running out of battery, so if it cuts off, I didn't just leave. But
okay, I'll give you a word. I'll give you final word here.
Our the relationship I have with my dad now is better than it's ever been. It was obviously torn for so long because it was such a frictionless lifestyle, right? I was living one way, and he is an adult and a father knew a better way. And we're on the same page now, and we enjoy a lot of this game and outside of the game together. And he's so good at what he does professionally, and he's a heck of a role model outside of professionally. He's just a great dude to have in your corner. And I'm so blessed that, I have him as my dad and a role model, a mentor, teacher, and friend.
I love that so much. And Jose says well-deserved. And
Jose's the man. Me and Joey used to gallop horses together for Bill Mott.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
see,
Really,
I love that.
really good rider.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And blessings for everyone. And thanks for your great work. Oh, thank you for watching and listening. I don't know. I've teared up during episodes of this show before. This might be the most, however. But I just so appreciate your honesty, your brutal honesty. And I also just wanted to say, I didn't know where the conversation would go, because I don't ever want you to feel like that's, always just going to be your story. Is just,
Sure.
It's because I just think it's a triumph story. But that doesn't define the past doesn't define who you are in the present. And I love that, because like the horse at 38-1, you beat the odds.
Mm-hmm.
And I am thrilled for you. I will be rooting for you. And I think that I can speak for those watching right now. We have over 1,000 people watching right now. And I hope they appreciated Will's story as much as I have. His phone did cut out there, but I did want to end it just by saying, where there is a will, there is a way. Thank you, everybody, for watching this edition of the Future Stars Forecast. Join me again next week.